There are many criminals in the world. Some are highly intelligent and pull off crimes that take great ingenuity and planning. But, at the opposite end of that spectrum, there are some criminals so dumb that you wonder how they manage to even leave the house, let alone ponder a life of crime. Here are 10 of the world's dumbest criminals. 10. Deaf bank robber. In August of 1995, Klaus Schmidt walked into a bank in Berlin with a pistol and proceeded to try and rob the place. However, as the robbery was underway, some of the bank staff noticed that Klaus was doing some strange things. One of the bank employees asked Klaus if he needed a bag, to which he replied, "You're damn right, it's a real gun." This confirmed to the bank staff that Klaus was in fact deaf. Seizing their opportunity, one of the staff members set off the very loud alarm, a fact that Klaus seemed completely oblivious to. Klaus also didn't seem to hear the bank door opening and the police filing in with their guns aimed at him. He was quickly arrested and taken into custody. The story doesn't quite end there, as Klaus then tried to sue the bank for exploiting his disability. 9. Returning robber. In 2008, 18-year-old Rubin Zarat walked into a muffler shop in Chicago armed with a gun and tried to rob it. There was a small problem. The majority of the money was in the safe, which only the manager could open, and the manager wasn't in. Rubin said that he would come back and try again later. To save another wasted journey, he left the store employees his cell phone number and told them to give him a call when the manager returned. Of course, the first thing the store staff did was to call the police. Police arrived and told the employees to call Rubin and tell him that the manager was back at the store. Sure enough, a short time later, Rubin again entered the store with the intention to rob it. Unfortunately for him, police lay in waiting, and after a brief shootout, Rubin was arrested. 8. Facebook detective. It seems that with the new age of social media, criminals have to be a bit smarter about the things they do. Mugshots are quickly circulated and suspects can be quickly identified, but these robbers made things a little bit easier for police. A group of men entered an internet cafe in Carma, Colombia, and pretended to be customers before they pulled out guns and cleaned out the register. It seems, however, that whilst waiting for the robbery to go down, one impatient thief couldn't resist checking his Facebook account from one of the computers. Trouble was that he left his account logged in. Police quickly found his address and went straight there to arrest him. 7. Artist's impression. Police didn't have to work very hard when they were called with a report of an attempted burglary by two men whose faces were covered in black marker pen. Approaching the scene, they came across a car matching the suspect's description and pulled it over. Sure enough, inside were the two robbers with their faces covered in black ink. Matthew McNally and Joey Miller, both 20, were arrested at gunpoint and charged with attempted second-degree burglary. They told officers that they had tried to wash off their disguise, but couldn't as they had mistakenly used permanent marker. 6. A novel approach. Polish author Christian Burglar, 34, might have gotten away with murder if he hadn't written about it in great detail in a book he was writing. His novel, A Mock, was released in 2003 and became a bestseller in Poland, but police reading the book noticed that the details of a murder in the story eerily matched those of an unsolved case from the year 2000. The similarities between the book and the murder led the police to investigate a bit further, and they discovered connections between the author and the victim, including the fact that the murder victim was romantically involved with the author's ex-wife. It could not be proven that the author was the sole perpetrator of the murder, but even so, Burglar was convicted and sentenced to 25 years. 5. Return to sender. While awaiting trial in Boyd's, Maryland for murder and armed robbery, prison inmate Quentin Thomas sent a letter to his friend suggesting that he kill any witnesses that were planning to testify against him in court. He figured he could write a letter detailing this without worry, as he knew that outgoing mail was not screened by prison authorities. Trouble was that Thomas must have addressed the letter incorrectly, as the letter came back, returned to sender. This now made it incoming mail, and it was opened and read by prison guards. He was subsequently convicted on 3 new counts, 1 of solicitation to commit murder and 2 of witness intimidation, in addition to the original charges. 4. Calling ahead. On March 23, 2010, Albert Bailey and an unnamed juvenile accomplice decided that it would be a good idea to rob a bank in Fairfield, Connecticut. To save time, Bailey called the bank in advance and informed them that he was coming to rob the place. He wanted to warn them to get the money ready so that they could just walk in, pick up the cash and walk out again. When they got to the bank a few minutes later, a bank employee had the police on the phone and was updating them as to what was happening. The young would-be robbers demanded $100,000, but only managed to get a hold of $900. As they exited the bank, they walked directly into the arms of the police, who quickly arrested them. They were both charged with first-degree robbery, and Bailey faced up to 9 years behind bars. 3. Hand over the gun. Bank robbery is a very stressful affair, but you think you would have your wits about you, especially if you choose such a high-profile target as the Halifax Bank in London. The robber entered the bank with a gun in one hand and a bag for the money in the other. He pointed the gun at the cashier and told her to fill the bag with £700,000. Next, he went to hand the cashier the bag, but he got things a little mixed up and actually handed over his gun. After a brief pause where he stood there looking confused, he suddenly realised what he had done and tried to grab the gun back. The cashier quickly backed away and pointed the gun at the robber. The robber fled and came across a bank employee's bicycle, which he quickly pedalled away on. What an idiot. 2. Night burglar. James Blankenship was 22 and one day decided that he was going to break into his mother's house. Unfortunately, his mother was home and witnessed him trying to break into the house through a first-floor window. James had not been welcome at his mother's home for about 3 months and had no reason to be there, let alone break in. When he was discovered, he fled the scene, but a neighbour saw him hiding and reported his whereabouts to police. As police handcuffed him, James stated that the police could not arrest him as you can only be charged with burglary if it is night time. 1. Most idiotic burglar. This one is possibly the most ridiculous robbery you have ever heard. Christopher Cron was a resident of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, who decided that it will be a good idea to rob a restaurant after it had closed for the night. The events unfolded like this. Firstly, he tripped the alarm when entering. Next, upon hearing the alarm, he just ignored it and carried on the robbery. Then, ADT, the alarm company, called the restaurant to check if there was a problem due to the alarm going off. Christopher answered the phone and spoke to the ADT employee. He also gave them his real name. When he decided he had better leave, he only took with him a bottle of Grand Marnier and 1 beer. Having gotten away without being arrested, Christopher then returned to the restaurant the next day and was recognised by an employee who had seen the surveillance video of the robbery. The police were called and Clever Chris was arrested on the spot. That brings this episode of Curious Tens to a close. Please feel free to leave your comments and make sure to subscribe for more videos.